Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, StarCharge, InfyPower, Eaton, and Amber. StarCharge is the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world and is also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage and microgrid solutions. And InfyPower is the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. This video is also brought to you by Eaton. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure hardware and software gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI. And Amber, providing modern protection plans for your Tesla's battery and more without the hassle of long-term contracts or upfront payments. Check out the link in the description to explore their plan options and use code SPEC5 for a 5% discount on all plans.
Hello and welcome back to Out of Spec Reviews, and welcome back to the GMC Sierra EV. Now I say back with an asterisk because this is actually the 2025 model year, not the 2024 model year that Kyle already did an hour-and-a-half video on. This will not be an hour and a half, but it also might not be short.
I swear to God, these fucking bongs.
So back in Detroit, me and Kyle were actually filming the Silverado RST EV situation, and we actually snuck around and found a GMC EV Sierra. We couldn't really get into it, we couldn't do anything with it, but it was really cool to see one back in the day. I guess that was, I don't know how many months ago, but it was a while ago. And then Kyle actually got a first edition, so the gray one, that's the only color that came in, for the 2024 GMC Sierra EV, and did that whole long video. Super interesting. Go watch that for a really thorough walk around, dive into the software. I mean, really digging into all the details, the typically nerdy things you expect from Out of Spec. This is the 2025 model year, so I will try to find all the differences I can. So welcome to Northern California, the really cool house. GM tends to rent these cool houses or something, and they always do also install a, GM energy solution system where they actually power this whole thing off of a truck. They also have their battery backup features in there. Really cool. We've already done a video on the GM's energy storage solution. And then my friend Tom Logney, friend of our channel, is doing a dedicated video on this system as well. So definitely check out State of Charge for that. And he will be joining me on the drive as well later today and tomorrow. But I wanted to show you guys this truck while no one else is looking at it at the moment. First of all, what's hilarious is, as you can probably tell by looking around, there's really no way this could be driven in. So it was craned. It was craned in, which is hilarious. And also hilarious because this thing is heavy. So the grass itself could not actually sustain it. I did want to see, oh, I'm so sorry about the beeps, but just looking at the stickers here, it's heavy. Basically 9,000 pounds curb weight, but this thing looks like a beast. I mean, that's nothing new. The looks haven't really changed. One thing that has changed is that the 2024 model, it was really just basically a $100,000 limited run of reservation holder, like the only reservation holders could get it, honestly. It was about $100,000 and it only came in one color, that gray color that you saw that Kyle and Colton did a video with Alyssa and Brandon. It was really fun to get all of their opinions and stuff on the truck. I missed that, so I was sent out here to see this one. This is gorgeous. This is a matte color. It's actually Midnight Matte is what it's called, so they used matte in the name. Really looks amazing. I'm such a fan of matte colors, honestly, and I think this looks really good, especially out here in the lighting, of course, with the white wall in the background. And I wanted to film a bit of a walk around on this one because this is the only one in this color here. The ones we'll be driving and spending more time with are either black or white, which are also new colors. So you'll now have the gray, the black, the white. Of course, grayscale, but then this midnight matte, which is really cool, and probably more colors to come. Just inside, I mean, it's already all the same stuff you guys saw before, but they really tried to point out some things in the presentation. This is also cool because we get to see what GM is trying to point out, whereas the one Kyle had, it was just like, okay, his raw impressions, which is cool. Cool to see both ways. But they wanted to point out, you know, quilting on the seat, super high end. Denali means high end of the brand. Like it's its own sub sort of branding in a way of GMC. It just means premium. You have open pore machined wood. These are actually engraved by laser into the wood, and then these metal pieces are put into the wood. So they do stick out a little bit, but it's just, yeah, feels nice, feels upscale, feels kind of like Rivian. Also, the coordinates right there. Props if you knew what those were, and if you didn't, well, it's Mount Denali, which is a mountain in case you didn't actually know. Otherwise, yeah, this just feels and looks premium. Me and Kyle were actually huge fans of the Silverado EV RST. I'm excited to see other Silverado trims. The work truck, of course, was also really brilliant, but this is clearly a more upscale. And that was our issue with the Silverado EV RST. It looked so cool on the outside. The inside was not much to write home about. In fact, I really didn't love it. I don't really like Chevy's interiors in general, but this feels and looks the business inside and outside, of course, but inside especially. Premium feeling almost everywhere, not all the way down here. This looks and feels cheap, but maybe you're not supposed to like look down there. I don't really know. Notably, some other trucks like Cybertruck actually has even nicer materials further down. Rivian does as well, but you have stainless steel speaker grills. Interestingly to me, this has no actual, like very little piano black plastic, which is nice. The only piano black plastic you'll really see a little bit here, which is actually a really nice effect. But that would probably get some dust on it being right below the aircon. And then the other piano black is right next to your touch points, which is a bummer because if you touch piano black, it becomes piano fingerprint black and nobody likes that. But I'm kind of bored of beating piano black to death, so I'm just gonna ignore that for now. Of course, the same glass roof, still no electrochromatic function like we've seen on Rivian. That feels like a bit of a miss to me for a really premium truck that this is touting itself to be. I didn't mention pricing. This one is actually $1,000 more than the outgoing model. So went up a little bit in pricing, but that's not unusual for model year over model year updates. But one other thing is that we now have a new battery pack. I'm going to find out the specs on that, but I believe it might be 170 kilowatt hours instead of this like 200 something, 205, I believe. This one has an EPA range of 460, up from the 440 from last year's model, but it's not because of a new battery. It's the same battery. Not even because of new motors, technically. I guess it's just new efficiencies found in the motors, in the software, and there's even some more potentially underbody plating. I don't know what we can see down there, but that may be something that helps with the aerodynamics. They said there's improved aerodynamics. Overall, just slightly more efficient than the outgoing model. Don't get me wrong, this is still not an efficient car, guys. This is, you're probably gonna expect like 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which is, I mean, the headlining factor is like, okay, huge range. This truck, this is the truck. Kyle called this the king of pickup trucks for electric. But they achieved that by the American route of just throwing a ton of batteries in it. So that kind of makes sense. But I do think you don't want to gloss over the fact that you are using a lot more energy to go those miles. So you are going to expect less efficiency than the smaller Rivian and the ironically more efficient Cybertruck, despite its weird shape. But yeah, there's no replacement for displacement. That's a common term used in, honestly, a lot of like older vehicles with big engines. It's the same American term used in this. Huge displacement of batteries brings you more range and more power. Like I said, there is also a smaller battery that is coming out. So to get into marketing jargon, and it's kind of annoying to me, the extended range is the smaller battery. I hate that. The max range is the bigger battery. I guess that makes sense. So that's the one that they're showing off here, and honestly the only car. There are no smaller battery ones here. There's no extended range trucks here, which is a bummer because I wanted to try that because that is really genuinely fully new, at least from the battery side, which means different power figures, slightly less horsepower, slightly less range. You're looking at 390 EPA, which is still plenty. And actually, that might be a better truck for a lot of people. That one starts around $91,000, $92,000. This one is like 101 to 102, 103, depending on how exactly you have it spec'd. That's a lot of money. But it's also a lot of truck and a lot of range, and Kyle touted it as the king of EV trucks, partially because of that. I mean, if you want to charge it 50% every day and still have enough range for everything, that's this truck. If you want to tow and not stop and charge all the time, as we proved in our huge epic towing test where we used the work truck version of the Silverado, but yours makes no difference with how this would tow, that was also so impressive. We went so much further than the Lightning, the Cybertruck, and the Rivian, which shows to me that GM has the towing stuff kind of in the bag. We'll be really curious to see what Ram is up to with the range extender situation. This is just fully electric. A lot of people, I think in the comments, I actually watched, our friends TFL were here the other day. They did a really good video on this as well. Some of the comments in their video were like, oh, why would anyone go full electric on trucks? Like, give us a hybrid. That's what makes sense. I do think we live in this world where there's enough space for both. So maybe they're just not focused on the hybrid. Maybe that would be really interesting if they added that. But honestly, GM's not big on hybrid anyways. If you want hybrid, well, I guess Ram's not really known for that either. Toyota Tundra, there you go. But as standard in the Denali, you do have four-wheel steering. This can do crab walk because it's GMC, that's what they can call it. The Silverado itself can actually do, I forget what they called it, some sort of snake word, I don't know. But crab walk is reserved for the GMC products such as this one. This is crazy. I'm on the ultra wide camera right now on the iPhone, and it can't fit the truck, and I'm not even standing like that close to it. It's just that big. But yeah, Super Cruise is standard, four-wheel steering is standard. These 24s I think are standard, and they're huge, which is crazy. I don't actually remember if those are standard, but you're talking 760 horsepower, 785 pound-feet of torque. That drops down to 600 something horsepower and 784 pound-feet of torque with the smaller battery. Still, I think plenty powerful for most people. And yeah, 360 camera. I mean, you got all the same tech and stuff that we've seen before. They've departed from Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so they're relying on their built-in software, which is fine if it's good. And I've heard it's pretty good, so I'm excited to see it for myself. And I mean, notably, Rivian and Tesla have Apple Music apps. Will this have Apple Music? I don't really know. I'm kind of doubting it. But I guess we can go in the Play Store and find out. Maybe right now, actually, while we have some time. Is that an option? Because that would be almost a deal breaker for me. I'm huge into music. Bluetooth is not typically a better quality unless they're using a higher codec. But yeah, I do not see Apple Music in the Play Store, which makes sense because they're kind of competitors. So that is a big miss for me. I'll see if I can find an audio engineer and see if they can like disclose their codec and stuff, because that's not the biggest deal if it's a nicer codec, but I don't even know how good the sound system is. I mean, it's Bose, so maybe you don't really care and Bluetooth is good enough for you, but it's not my preference. The rear camera is broken. That's so funny. The last car I filmed was the Hyundai Ioniq 9, which also had a malfunctioning digital rearview mirror. Really, really funny. Looking below the poured wood, we already saw this. Kyle showed all this before, but really curious to see tomorrow what else we can discover. I'll be driving with Tom Malogny from the State of Charge, and so we should have a fun time. And then maybe we'll show off the midgate, but you guys have seen that in so many videos. Literally everyone shows that in videos. I do want to point out the 60-40 split. I don't know if we've highlighted it that much before, but you can actually sort of have the midgate functionality with a 60-40 split in a rear passenger or two rear passengers if you have it on that side, one rear passenger on that side, but you can't do the full midgate opening thing. It's really only the bottom section, as you can see. So you could still fit most things through there, but you'd have to keep the glass up there. You couldn't have the whole thing open because then the glass has to store somewhere and there's no way to have the back seat with the glass not stored up there. So that's a bit of a technicality when they advertise that. Just wanted to clarify, but otherwise, yeah, looking up top here, I don't see any of the holders for where stuff can mount to. That's not supposed to come off, oops. But yeah, no roof rack type situation, but looks like bed racks will be easy by this. So I think that's about it. So that's it for my quick walk around of the Midnight Matte. It's not called blue. And I'm curious what you guys think of this color. What do you think of the matte colors on trucks? I think they really actually work, especially with this design ethos. Lots of aggressive, beautiful shoulders. The waistline is really nice, and they can lean into that because this is more of a unibody situation, not a body on frame type thing. All right, so I was stumbling over my words a bit, but Kyle does point out that I am definitely a design enthusiast, so that's why I'm now talking to a designer. This is Tom.
Hi, how are you? And
Tom is here partially because his accent is amazing. Also, Tom, this thing looks like a beautiful lawn ornament in this case. I mean, it's sitting here on this lawn, actually becoming one with the lawn.
Yeah.
But can you explain to me why this looks so good?
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. My name's Tom Grech. I was on the design team for the program. First of all, you'll notice it just, it grabs your attention with the front end.
Right.
We have a lot of sculpture and form in the grille. Traditionally, GMC's always been known for its, grille shield and graphic and down the road graphic. So we really wanted to capture that and bring it forward into its electric future.
And is this backlit as well?
It is. So the grille shield is traced with a light guide, and the badges are individually lit.
Nice.
So the grille with the DRLs, it's unmistakably a GMC, especially at night, which looks fantastic. The other thing too is with this vehicle, the projectors are really low.
Right.
So we've been able to optimize in the way that when you're coming up on other vehicles, you're not blinding them with high lamps, but we can also take advantage of the space we now have to put a lot more form and geometry up high. So a lot of technical detail with radars, intake, projectors are hidden down below.
Is that a fog light or a cornering light?
Yeah, it's a fog lamp, and then your two projectors.
Yeah.
And then you have your DRL, and then another really cool part about this vehicle is the auxiliary charge lamps. So when it's plugged in, you can live see the amount of charge that the vehicle has.
Nice.
But for me, it just gives it a really robotic, character.
And so I guess regardless of the color, what we see as black here is black on every color.
It is, which is quite different. But it's a trick that we've used to give the car a higher presence on the road.
Right.
Especially being a Denali and being a GMC, it has to feel technical and has to feel capable. So that's really allowed us to carry it through the whole car.
Yeah, see the black strip all the way along.
Yeah, all the way along. So it really lifts the vehicle up off the road. But it ties in really nicely with the wheels, with selective machining.
Yeah.
So you get this theme of gloss black.
Okay.
All the way from exterior and also a little bit in the interior as well. Another unique part about this truck is the front door form. So the team was able to capture the design language that you see in the front and the side, into the door and make it uniquely a GMC. And also, unlike traditional pickup trucks where you have a bed gap, we don't have that on this vehicle. So we've been able to play a lot more with the design and the form language and tie the doors into the fender. So it just makes the truck feel much more cohesive, much more tough, and honestly just more well refined on the road when you see it in its profile.
Right.
Yeah.
And these are, I guess, some sort of lamps on the side?
Yeah, so they're a side marker.
Okay.
Similar to what you would traditionally see on the corners of the other vehicles. But positioning them above the wheel centers just gives it more of a technical feeling, especially at night time. So it's another neat, really cool detail, especially with some GMC branding in there as well. And then coming onto the rear, you'll notice as well a very similar language to on the front of the vehicle. So whether you're coming from behind or in front, it's unmistakably a GMC with lots of technical detail, the signature lighting that brings you into the rear of the car.
Nice.
So we have the multi-pro tailgate, There's also the mid-gate, which you can see is the lower half is down right now, and that's almost 11 feet of length. So it's very functional, but also from design perspective, we had to also make it look the part.
Right. Did you find any unique challenges, now going electric, but still keeping that GMC ethos? I mean, some electric vehicles completely try to eradicate the grille and pretend like it never existed, but like you said, it's part of your design ethos from the ICE trucks. It is.
It is challenging when you have a very well-established brand. What does that look like in its next evolution, particularly as an EV? But we were really excited about it. It gave us a lot of opportunity. We really embraced the grille shield to bring sculpture, form, and refinement into it. I think it's things like this traced Galvano bright piece really kind of creates a statement.
Nice.
So yeah, to be honest, it gives us more opportunity to play with design in areas where we typically have to reserve for airflow. So yeah.
Nice. Well, I think a great job on this. The color is fantastic. I think I could speak for our audience as well. Like, we'd love to see even more interesting colors. We know GM's capable of it. So
yeah, it's a fantastic color. I think the satin against some of the gloss elements pops really, really nicely. You can really read the form clearly as well.
Especially in this lighting,
Yeah.
Great contrast. Great job with the design. And now we see Tom is talking to Tom. Very delicate operation going over there. And nice. These trees are too low for the trucks. Anyways, while I'm waiting for Tom, I got some more clarification on, I guess, the efficiencies extrapolating the last few bit of mileage. They basically just found every watt, as they call it, of efficiency. So I'm wondering if actually last year's model was just not as efficient as it could have been. Part of it was the actual software integration of everything. So they found ways to improve the efficiency in the motors by using improved magnets and improved inverters. They also added a bit more aero plating, like I said, below the truck, and also software improvements to take advantage of all those added efficiencies. So they're just like squeezing a bit more out of what was already a huge battery-filled brick, which means they were able to, I guess, extract a few more miles as well. So 460, as we said, EPA rating for this bigger battery version, the smaller battery, 390. But you probably could see 500 if you drive around town at low-ish speeds. I mean, we'll see what the efficiency numbers are on our drive, but of course, us as well as Tom will range test one of these as soon as we get our hands on one, both the bigger battery and the smaller extended range battery. I still can't believe they call the small battery extended range. But that could mean there are even more smaller batteries coming, which we will see possibly next year. There are additional trims coming next year. The AT4, not the AT4X, that may come eventually as well, but for next year, for probably 2026 model year, I'm guessing, we will see the AT4 and Elevation. Yes, that's the word, Elevation trim and the AT4 trim. So those are cheaper trims. Elevation notoriously is like the actual base entry model, if you will. And that'll be really fun to try that one out, and the AT4 as well. The whole lineup will be interesting to try. Welcome to the second day of this sort of event. We're actually out here at a horse farm, and they have a truck plugged in, as you do with all the electric pickup trucks and their displays nowadays, showing what it's capable of as far as the onboard power situation. I wanted to call it Pro Power Onboard, but that's Ford. They have their own version of that, and I'll take you on a really quick walk around just to see what they've got plugged in, but then we're gonna go actually film some more with the truck, go drive it. We're in the beautiful hills area of Northern California. I want to call it Central California because there's a lot more north of this, but as far as the major population centers, I get it. The Bay Area is Northern California. Let's see what is over here and what is right there. It is super windy here, but before Tom and I go find a really nice place to film, we're going to show you what is up here. Of course, you got a front outlet on the bed, just one front outlet. I actually wish there was multiple. You know, like Ford does have multiple in the front. This is the E-trunk. They don't call it a frunk. It's the E-trunk. I'm still gonna call it a frunk, but pretty good. 11 cubic feet of storage capacity up here. You can see now we have this truck in the white color, which is cool. And I wanted to show the white color just to differentiate. Me and Tom have a black truck up there, and of course I showed you the blue one earlier, the Midnight Matte Metallic. But yeah, here's the white truck. It is windy, so I'm gonna keep the microphone close to me. Here we have, I guess, a way to plug out of the J7072, powering this thing. But that is something you can plug into the truck through this to give power that way. And there's also the outlets right there. So it is I'm not sure which outlet that is, a NEMA 1030R, I think. It's a 240 volt and a couple of 120s, which I think are 15 amp circuits actually. I asked them why they didn't do a NEMA 1450. I guess they just feel like the 1030R, whatever that one is more widely used. And they also just didn't want people to like really pull like 50 amps worth of power. I don't know. I guess if you can charge a car from this J7072 port, which I don't know if you can, but if you could, that would kind of solve that. Like the Lucid solves that with their range exchange feature. This not having NEMA 1450 is disappointing in my opinion, because I think a lot of people might want to use that. But maybe that's just because we overuse ours on the Cybertruck to rescue cars on the side of the road when we do range tests. So the coolest thing would be a choice, having both 240 volt outlets and like 4 120 volts. There's also one in the cab. And if you had like 3 up front, that would be the ultimate like workhorse truck. But I don't know. I feel like people who are really looking for workhorse trucks are probably leaning more Silverado and F-150. This one feels a bit more lifestyle premium, but it's cool that it has all this capability, including the midgate stuff, which I don't really know how many people are going to use the midgate, and it's powering this whole thing. It's like offshore power or shore power, whatever they call it. So yeah, they just set up this entire station where everything is being powered off of this truck. They even have a little coffee set up here. Shout out to Goodheart Coffee. They actually roast in Colorado, but do mobile coffee things like this. They don't even have brick and mortar. They're just like coffee caterers. So yeah, quick showing of the setup they have here. Very typical to just show how all the power stuff works. And it's actually it's charging this electric ATV thing, which I would absolutely love to have this in Colorado. Oh my gosh. So there you go. Before I get taken down by the copyright music, it is really funny that all these events are like, oh, come film content, and then they have like music playing everywhere, which we can't have on our videos. So that's a bit silly to me, but really cool setup. Love it out here. Very peaceful. I see why they chose this big horse farm to come do things. Other trucks are out and about doing like challenges, like how fast can you open the midgate, crab walking, like fun challenges. But I think we're actually going to go film more content ourselves and just not spend all the time doing these challenges, because we want to get some driving time in and maybe even run this truck down a bit and maybe charge it. We'll see. All right, well, starting in the cab of the truck, actually I'm going to throw it in park here, which reminds me of the parking pole situation. It doesn't hold the parking brake, so if you're on a hill, you're going to jolt yourself. Rock a little. But yeah, Tom and I are about to head out. But first I wanted to, before we actually start driving, just look at a couple things. We're currently routing because we're about to take a road trip, because we're trying to drain this thing down. And to do that, you have to do an actual road trip, because this has so much energy, so much battery. But the software is really actually pretty nice. I think we can agree it looks really good. This is a huge, almost 17-inch screen. I'm gonna throw on my cooled seat. And yeah, really nice contrast, really good resolution. We've got a really clear, bright heads-up display that you can see there. And the driver display, it's about 11 inches. Heads-up display is about 14 inches. I don't really know why they give us the measurements necessarily, but it is bigger than your F-150 Lightning. I think we agreed it was, what, 1.5 inches, something like that?
Yeah, the center screen, it's interesting because it's vertical.
Yeah.
And the Chevrolet, the Silverado is all horizontal. So it looks a lot like the Lightning. It even has this center volume button, you know, for the audio, just like the Lightning does.
Yeah.
That's kind of like floating on the glass screen.
Ooh, feels pretty nice, actually.
Very feels similar to the Lightning button.
Yeah.
I think the height is about the same as the Lightning's, but it's wider.
Yeah.
And the Lightning's 15-inch diagonally, and this is 16.6. So I think that's all it took, was just to make it a little bit wider in order for it to, and that was totally intentional by GM.
Right.
They were like, it's got to be bigger than the Lightning screen. Just make it an inch bigger and we'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
We could say the biggest center console screen, but they do that.
They're all competing, but I love these physical buttons down here. I'm going to turn my temperature down. They do that intentionally because they know, truck things, people are going to have gloves on, and so they're very tactile with their button use. I do like that. I almost wish there were more buttons, honestly, but I think that's a hot take. Everyone seems to like soft buttons instead of hard buttons. So if it's on a screen, I get it. It's more flexible, more useful in that way. But yeah, it looks kind of square. Like instead of the, like you said, upright or horizontal, this is just, when you have the actual application open, it's just square. I do think the software is very snappy for the most part, but sometimes you go in somewhere and it just takes a bit to load. I hope that could be improved. Like the hardware itself seems to be capable. Like that's, if you're swiping around, that's where the hardware itself is fine. So it's just software itself maybe needs some tweaks here and there, but I'm sure updates can improve that. We're in this magical age where updates are nice to have, but a lot of little things in here. But notably, like I said in my, video I filmed yesterday with the blue truck, no Apple Music. So people like me are stuck with Bluetooth, which is okay, but that's really not the most ideal way to listen to music. But then again, I don't think this sound system is necessarily up there as much with the Lightning's premium, whatever that is, Bang & Olufsen or whatever.
Yeah, we haven't. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really tested this out. So it could be close to that. We haven't really cranked it up.
Yeah.
I think at lower volumes it's nice and crisp and clear.
Yeah.
But the Lightning, what they did with their premium for the Platinum was they actually did a really good job with that.
We'll try it on our drive, of course. We got a lot we can get into with the drive. But right before we take off, I wanted to see what type of speeds we could pull from these USB ports. So I've got my nifty Anchor thing here, and looks like about just a hair under 30 watts is what we're looking at, which is totally fine. I don't know the actual advertised speed on this wireless charging tray that just like floats around. Looks nice with the wood and stuff, open pore wood, you can feel it, it's got texture, but wireless charging is so bad. Like it's just a way to heat up your phone. It's a really inefficient way to charge. So I don't know, everyone's focused on it though. It's a way to show that you are, wow, that clunk when I put it in gear. It's a way to show that you're futuristic and techie if you have wireless chargers in your car, but I think it's overrated. But I think it's time to head out, hit the road.
All right, let's go. Let's burn this battery down. As you said before, it's our goal to try to burn it down a little bit, maybe do some charge recordings. And we drove it like all day already, and we only got it from 93% to 80%.
Yeah.
That was with like 80 miles of driving or something like that. So
they had us on a lot of slow, windy roads, and that's kind of the challenge with some of these first drives. I mean, you've done a lot of these too, and the one we did together last time was in France, and that was one of those events where it was so much driving to get to the spots, and we had to fight for time to like film. It's hard when some of these don't really cater to the videographers.
Yeah.
So,
well, GM's been very accommodating to us, at least.
They have, yeah.
While we're doing this, we have completely divorced ourselves from the program. That everybody on this drive program is back there now performing tasks, doing crab walk, doing all the stuff. But we've done that already with multiple GM vehicles. I just didn't see the need to go through all of the same things that we've done in the past with the Denali here. So I'd rather just let's drive this thing and get some good driving impressions, burn the battery down a little bit, and have some fun.
Yep, so I'm in the My Mode setup. There is no Sport mode on here, so the only way to really do that is to go into My Mode and then tap Adrenaline for acceleration, feel, motor sound. I'm going to turn that off. Suspension, I'm going to leave it comfortable. Steering, I'm going to leave comfortable, and we'll just go. Let's see what we can do. Wow, so definitely it just feels like a tank. I mean, that's nothing new. Kyle's already driven the Sierra EV. We've done the Silverado EV. They feel very similar, these two cars. But notably, the NVH was supposedly improved on the Denali, the Sierra EV, versus the Silverado that's kind of sister car is. And I can see that, I can hear that. I think there's been improvements with the glass, just all the material choices being a bit more premium. They've really tried to make the cabin a bit quieter. I still, though, feel like there's a bit of a compromise because of that mid-gate behind us. That just lets in, it's just, that's a place where they could have normally put more soundproofing and just made it feel more sturdy. And instead, because of the cool functionality of the mid-gate, but it's compromising something. And in this case, I think just a little bit of road noise will seep in through there. And we'll also get some ka-chunk at times because these wheels, while they look cool, 24 inches, you just feel like a baller. But you feel also the little imperfections in the road. I mean, just hitting these little reflector things, I can feel every single one, and they're so tiny. The air suspension helps, of course, and I do feel like this is just maybe a bit more soft and plush compared to the Silverado EV. I don't know what you think on that.
Yeah, we're definitely of like minds there. I did an in-depth comparison video with and there's a Lightning, with my Lightning and Silverado RST, and one of the things that I noticed, and quite honestly, as much as a Lightning fan as I am, and I love my Lightning, the Silverado beats it in so many ways. With the fact that it's got such a bigger battery, longer driving range, but the interior cabin, say, driving experience, the comfort in the cabin, and I don't just mean the seats. I definitely like the Lightning better because it's much quieter. It's got a softer ride. You don't feel all the bumps like you just mentioned. Every time we go over one of those little reflectors, we feel it. And that was the same way with the Silverado. But I do think that it's a little bit better here with the Sierra Denali. The cabin's quieter than the Silverado for sure. It's still, I don't think, on Lightning level. With as far as being a peaceful, quiet place, and it's not as soft. The driving experience, like just that little bump we just went over where we would have felt it a lot less in the Lightning, or the guy right in front of us with that gray Lightning felt it a little bit less than we did. But I mean, that's that's one aspect. That these GM vehicles, the Silverado, this Sierra, do so many truck things well. That you've got to pick your poison.
Exactly.
What do you need in a truck? What's important to you? The driving comfort is really important to me. While I use my truck to haul stuff, and I rebuilt a house and I had it loaded up constantly with sheetrock and building materials, I'm not a contractor. So the contractor stuff would outweigh interior comfort if that's what I did. So
I know you're more of a truck enthusiast than me. I mean, I don't own a truck, and I've done very few actual truck things. But the whole mid-gate thing, do you find that, like, does your mindset go, that's super, super useful? Or is that a bit of a gimmick, or where do you land on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's a gimmick, but what I do think is there's a small subset of people that will find that very useful. And for everybody else, like, they'll get the truck and they'll almost never open it up. They might, when they first get it, buy something big just to use it. But like for me, for instance, there's been very few times, and my Lightning's bed is even smaller than this bed. The Lightning's bed's, I think, 5 foot 5 inches. This is 5 foot 10 inches. So you got 5 more inches in Silverado and Denali. Very few times did I wish, or did I really need something bigger? Because with the gate down, and I can strap things down, I wasn't buying things that was that long. I mean, even I transported 10-foot planks of lumber. And I had it hanging out a little bit, and I had a little red flag on the end, and it wasn't a problem. So for me, at least, for my use case, I wouldn't use it that much. I know I mentioned to you earlier, every GM ad that talks about the mid-gate shows that picture of that big long canoe. I don't have a canoe, so I won't be transporting it. And actually, my friend has a couple, but they're at his house. Like he lives on the lake. He's not transporting them. But there are people that do frequently transport long things. And I suppose that would be useful. But I have to believe that not a very high percentage of people that get these trucks will use that regularly.
And then I guess the other thing to compare a bit is the Lightning, it's the Pro Power onboard. I forget the marketing term for this, but we just saw that site back there powering all the things. I mean, how do you feel like this integration is versus the Lightning, and then versus the Cybertruck, which the Cybertruck has the NEMA 1450.
Yeah.
This and the Lightning notably have the 30 amp plugs, and then you got the Rivian that doesn't even have a 240 volt.
Yeah. So I mean, the NEMA 1450 is used a lot more for like EV charging than really tools and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of those power tools and things use the 30 amp plug, so I don't think that's an advantage. I mean, it's an advantage to plug in an electric car charger and charge somebody at 40 amps, but I, other than that, I don't see that the 1450 isn't commonly used for equipment. So that's not an advantage. The Lightning has a lot more outlets. It has 11 outlets. I think this has 7. I forget the exact number.
Like that.
And the standard output on the Sierra is 7.6 kilowatts or 7.2. I think it's 7.6 kilowatts. Is that standard? Then you can buy the optional power bar.
Yeah.
I think it's like $800, somewhere in that $600, $800, and it bumps the output up to 10.2. But without buying that, it's under 8 kilowatts. Whereas the Lightning, I guess the standard one that was on like the work truck, the standard one was, I think it was 3.3. But most of the trucks are outfitted with the Pro Power onboard with 9.6, like mine is. So I think most of the Lightnings are going to come out of the box off the dealer lots with a little bit more output and quite a few more outlets. So I don't necessarily think that General Motors has an advantage in that regard.
Yeah, this does feel like it hits a lot of truck things, but I think maybe I just don't see the Denali customer maybe being quite the hardcore truck customer, and so I think the Lightning being cheaper, but also just having a bit more of the Pro Power on board, but then it doesn't have the mid-gate, but has a bigger frunk. Like there's all these like little places where each brand is edging the other out in some regard. You can tell they're competing a little bit, but honestly, this rides really nice. I do love the air suspension. Of course, the Lightning is the only truck of the big trucks that doesn't have that, but it rides so nicely, like you said. So like I'd love to throw bigger tires on this, smaller wheels. Like I don't need 24s. Give me 21s with some thick rubber.
Even 20-inch.
20, yeah.
I have 20s on my Lightning. It's plenty big enough.
Yep. I think that would be really interesting to try that out. It's cool that they give us the top trim to kind of live with for today, but it's interesting that even this being a Denali, like you have the open 4 wood and nice touch points, but you don't have massaging seats, which the Lightning has. None of the other trucks really have that either, though. So that's what sets the Lightning apart a little bit, but that's what screams like more premium to me. And then not having the adjustable climate for the rear. The rear is really stuck on whatever the front is. Of course, you can adjust the vents, but there's no separate temperature control. That definitely is different with the, I don't know, does the Lightning have different rear climate?
You can turn it on, but it's not, you can't adjust the temperature differently.
Okay, so Cybertruck and Rivian kind of have that, but I don't know. This does seem like just a nice place to be, and I'm pretty comfortable, and I feel like this really is the one where people, I don't know how many people are cross-shopping. I'm sure a decent amount, but this feels like it's not just a little bit more battery. It is a huge, like a Model 3's worth of battery over the Lightning.
Yeah, I'm happy that GM came out and made this, because what it does is it really made a big separation with the Lightning as far as product, being different.
Yeah.
And what I like to see is the options for people.
Yeah.
And if they put out a truck with like maybe 20 or 30 more kilowatt hour than the Lightning, it would have had a little bit more range. But when they went and said, okay, this is in another stratosphere, which is good, and the people that need this or think they need this can do it, and the people that are comfortable with less range, they have a lower cost option, because the Lightning does cost less. It's a lot less battery, a lot less range. If you need to tow really far, you really have to, well, first of all, an electric truck probably isn't the best choice if you frequently need to tow far. It's not that they can't do it. This can tow 10,500 pounds, I think, but it's the charging infrastructure. We're not ready for we don't have pull-through stations. It's a hassle to charge an electric truck on the road with a trailer. But I like the fact that they really made, GM said, we're going to give customers a completely different choice. In the Silverado and also this Denali.
Yeah, we've proved you can tow with this like a beast. You can stop a lot less often, which is good, because when you do stop and charge while towing, that's where it gets frustrating, because this does, unlike the Lightning and the Rivian, this doesn't have the front charge port. So you're hoping for a pull-through station, which of course they show the couple of pull-through stations they show in the marketing materials. But in reality, most of the stations are not pull-through, so you're having to possibly unhook or block a bunch of spots. It's kind of a mess at the moment. That can change, that can improve. They talked about Iona, the upcoming charging network, the joint venture, and there are more and more stations allowing that. And I think, we had proved when me and Kyle and Timon and Andreas did that big towing test over the Rockies, like that's where the Silverado just really, really shined, charging 1/3 as much or as many times as the other trucks.
And it charges like a boss.
So I'm hoping we can, get some charging time in and just see how this does, but we already know it's going to do well. And I think, as far as the price tag, this is just a hair over $100,000. But we're in this age where there are expensive pickup trucks. How do you feel on the pricing strategy?
Go to a GMC lot and look at a Denali pickup truck, combustion one. They're really expensive. My friend just bought a Denali, Tahoe Denali SUV, not the pickup truck. Literally just bought, actually, he got it a couple of months ago, and the engine blew with 3,000 miles on it.
Oh my gosh.
So they gave him a new one. They didn't replace it, but they gave him a new one. And his was right around 100,000. So, this is where we are today. Yes, the EVs are a little bit more expensive than their combustion counterparts, but if you're going to keep it for a while, you'll make up for it in refueling and no maintenance. I've got 30,000 miles on my Lightning. I haven't really crunched the numbers yet, but I charge at home. I paid 16 cents a kilowatt hour. So it cost me like $18 to refuel the Lightning to go about 300 miles. How much would it cost me to spend to go 300 miles with a F-150? And I really haven't, like I said, I haven't really crunched on, but a lot more. And after 30,000 miles, I've got to be a few $1,000s ahead already after only 2 years. Now, stretch that out over, keep a truck 7, 8, 9 years, you're going to be above water, even though you paid more. Especially with the maintenance and stuff, no oil changes, all that stuff. Brake pads will last forever. And this thing, talk about brake pads, this thing has awesome regenerative braking.
Really, really strong. You do have to turn on the one pedal driving. Once you do, it's so beefy. And I love this, the screen shows you the amount of kilowatts you're using. So right now we're cruising at about 70 miles an hour, using 10 to 20 kilowatts of power. If I take my foot off, the regen gradually pulls in. We may not have it set to strong though. Oh, there we go. Wow. So that was 150 kilowatts of regen just immediately. So this thing can just regen like a champ. And what do you know what the average efficiency is on your Lightning?
I think overall, because I have my one trip meter that I never reset. I think I'm at like either 2.2 or 2.3.
Okay.
It was 2.4 for a while, but then I cut it down because I did a couple really long trips. Hundreds and hundreds of miles, and I'm cruising at 75, 80 miles an hour, so I knocked it down.
Because I'm really curious what this will do on our range testing, but right now on our average, we're nearing 100 miles. It's about 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour. Definitely not going to be a very efficient vehicle. But to get that huge range number, they have the giant battery, over 200 kilowatt hours, 205-ish, I think. And then, it's impressive that they squeezed a bit more out of the new improved efficiencies with the motors, the inverters, the added aerodynamics, which I'm guessing are kind of the underside. But at that price point, it's hard for me to say this is barely more than the Silverado and feels just like so much nicer. So I don't know why you could choose Silverado over this. I mean, looks are subjective, so some people might prefer the look of that. I like the Silverado looks a bit more, I think. I'd get the license plate EV Lanch or something. Like, I still think it could have been an Avalanche.
Yeah, and that's interesting how they took different interpretations of the rear, you know, of the rear of the cab.
Yep.
How the Chevy does like the Avalanche style, and this, while it's not straight up and down like a lot of pickup trucks,
Yep.
it's slightly angled. It's a lot more vertical
Yep.
than the Avalanche, and I like it. I actually like the Silverado too. I'm not a hater on the Avalanche style look. I thought it looked good on the Silverado.
Me too.
But I think this looks good also. I could like both, you
Yep.
know, and you get to choose. And you know, to your point before about why would you choose the Silverado, I think what you said earlier made a lot of sense. Like, a lot of people that buy the GMC Denali vehicles, they really are like their cars.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like it's a status symbol when you
Yeah.
have the Denali. The two, like I know two people that own, my friend that just bought one and another guy that owns a pickup truck.
Yeah.
He owns a construction company. All his work trucks are work trucks, but he drives a Denali. He doesn't
Yeah.
use it for work.
Right,
But
right.
I guess he's a pickup truck guy, but like that's his style. He's got the big chrome rims
Yep.
and chrome grille and everything.
Yep.
So I think the Denali customer isn't the work customer. You know,
Yeah.
this is somebody that likes pickup trucks,
Yep.
likes the utility of a pickup truck, but wants premium.
Yep.
And this looks great. I mean, the inside, the layout of this probably is my favorite of the electric trucks.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love the Rivian's layout.
Yeah.
Love Rivian's layout. But, you know, I'd have to go back and forth and look at them to say which one I like better. I'm really liking this, the open pore wood, just how they have everything laid out. It's not they didn't try to do too much. I hate when companies try to cram too much style into something.
Yep.
It's kind of understated, classy. The interior looks really nice on. The seats are super comfortable.
Yeah.
So I give them a solid A on this interior design here, Jam.
Yeah, I agree. This seems to do so many things well, so we're gonna keep driving for a while, see what else we find out, and we'll catch you guys in a bit. Quick stop at you-know-where. All right, we did a passenger switch, stopped by Starbucks, of course, and a few more thoughts after driving, effectively 2 hours out into the middle of the desert to try to kill this thing. We turned around at 46% state of charge. We are heading now to a charger back closer to the hotel, and should get there around 20, a little bit less, hopefully, but about 20%. We're hoping to do maybe a 20 to 80%. We would have done 10 to 80, but there's just not enough time to really run this thing down. But Super Cruise, pretty good. I did notice it does brake a little aggressively and sometimes a little bit late when someone kind of like comes out in front of you, where it's like it clearly wasn't looking too far in advance. So I was mostly impressed with Super Cruise, but there's just a few things where it's a bit annoying, and sometimes the automatic lane changes, as you've pointed out in your experience, because you have Super Cruise as well on your Equinox. Sometimes the lane changes are a bit annoying. So you can set it to manually tell it to do it, and then it'll do it, I guess.
Yeah, so one of two ways. You could either let it make all the decisions on the lane changes, or when you put your blinker on, that's when it does the automatic lane change for you. That's how I always have it set, because I found that it's like lane change happy. It makes too many lane changes unnecessarily when you leave it in the fully automatic mode.
Right, yep. So, Super Cruise though, good, and notably, as they point out multiple times while we're here, they're the only company who lets you do hands-free driver's assistance while towing, which we're not doing in this video, but me and Kyle have done that in the Silverado EV, and you know, it's this truck and the Silverado EV can both do that, which is pretty cool.
See, right now it's making a lane change.
Yep.
And I don't really know why it would. You know, the two cars in front of us are kind of in the same location. Maybe one's a little bit in front of the other, but they're far off in the distance.
Yep.
Maybe it was just deferring to the slow lane, but
Yep.
and then it's we'll drive a little bit and it'll jump us back into the other lane.
Yep. So, I don't know. Not the best, not the worst. It's a very adequate, especially a lot of times it's very, very good, honestly, for a hands-free system. And it's cool that it is hands-free while driving. I mean, Blue Cruise with Ford, hands-free as well, but not when you're towing, I guess, which may come. I mean, they clearly have the tech to handle it in theory, but the nuances with the rear wheel steering could also maybe help, but also make it challenging with towing at times. I see both sides of that. It would be interesting to crab walk while towing. Anyways, another thing, after living with the software a bit, it is, yes, looks fantastic. Absolutely obnoxious to use in certain aspects. Notably, we were trying to navigate to a charger. Literally could not do it while moving. I really am annoyed that some systems, I'm not going to blame GM entirely because of other automakers do this too, where let's say you have a very adequate passenger, they can't do anything because the system for safety reasons is locked down. You couldn't do anything. We tried to use voice to do it, which is a Google Voice thing, and as it does the lane change.
Now we're going back to where we were before, just...
But the Google Assistant has to be like connected to a certain phone or something. That phone, I guess, is not in this truck, so it renders it completely useless. And then you can't even move around the map and search for something because the search this area, which is on Google Maps, even on your phone and stuff, that doesn't function while driving, which blows my mind. I don't understand why it's a thing. So I don't see any rationale why are some other companies letting the passenger do things whereas other companies are locking you down. I find that very frustrating, in fact infuriating. You shouldn't have to stop to figure out where you're going. That takes away the benefit of you know, having the co-pilot helping you do a really efficient road trip. So that's another nitpick, I guess. Some other things, I mean, we did find, like last night when we picked up the truck, finding the heads-up display setting, the voice assistant couldn't turn it on, finding it deep in the settings to finally turn it on. I don't know why it was off in the first place, but it's cool that it can be off and on. But just, I think this kind of has what I would almost call the lucid problem, where it looks really fantastic, but some of the functionality is a bit frustrating and a bit limited, and I'd love to see that improved down the road. Of course, software can easily be improved. I'd argue the more important piece is the hardware powering it. That's my issue with a lot of the Ford systems. Their software looks okay, functions okay, but is very laggy compared to many other vehicles. It's still usable, of course, but with how much slower it is than like modern Tesla and Lucid systems, I find that to be a bit frustrating. But otherwise, we're enjoying our little road trip. I mean, everyone else is kind of like staying close to the hotel. Now we're doing another lane change. Everyone else is staying close to the hotel.
No reason to do a lane change right now.
They're in a beautiful, beautiful redwood area. We like that too, but we honestly almost should have skipped that just so we could have gone further to try to drain this down. But I get it. They try to give a fully charged vehicle to the press to, you know, just show how much range available you have at 97% or whatever. But in our unique use case where we're trying to do some charging on a one-day trip is, I guess, wild, but also that's what we do.
We drove 200 miles off course. We literally drove
more than 200.
If they're monitoring where we are, they're like, are they stealing the truck?
These guys are lost. Yeah, we made it a third of the way to LA, which is hilarious.
Yeah, we're going
Another
back.
thing while I'm thinking about it, this virtual or digital rearview mirror is kind of cool. Not the best camera quality, honestly. And you do have to shift your focus when you're looking out of the window and then change focus to look up here. Not that big of a deal. And I actually do love this as a passenger because I can see as the passenger the rear view, whereas typical with a traditional rearview mirror, the passengers, none of them can see it except for the driver. So that's kind of a benefit hidden in that. And then the cool glass roof, I mean, it's very, very open, very, very nice and spacious feeling, but you know, we're dealing with nice weather, but if it was a hot day, Tom, we'd be roasting.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I pointed out when I did my Silverado review compared to my Lightning. The Lightning has standard and automatic sunshade that you just press a button and it closes. For this amount of coin, you know, 100 grand, I'd like to have a sunshade.
Yeah.
It's this big, beautiful roof, and yes, it's UV protected and everything. And by the way, I hate to harp on this. This is like the 7th lane change since we started this video. We just went back. We just keep going back and forth between lanes. So it works great. It executes it just fine.
Yeah.
But if you leave it in this automatic mode where you just let it determine, it makes way too many lane changes. I put it in the other mode. When I want a lane change, I just hit the blinker. It does it. It executes it for me, which is fine.
Yep.
So look, there we go.
Another one.
Another one.
Yeah, it is trying to be very optimal, I guess, but sometimes more than we'd like to. And notably, Tesla lets you kind of say on this drive, do less lane changes. Like, it gives you some control over that. It would be cool if this had that option where you could say, you know what, do the automatic thing, but be less aggressive. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know how you really determine that logic. I mean, that's a programming thing. But yeah, so that's a lot of our driving thoughts. We're of course going to jump onto Tom's channel and do a video. Congrats, by the way, on 100,000 subscribers. That's a big deal.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, just turned 100K subs this week.
Yep.
Big milestone.
Yep.
And let's keep going.
Yep.
Evidently, look, another lane change. So we just keep going back and forth between the two lanes for no reason. But that's the system. So I recommend, if you have Super Cruise, do the automatic lane change when you hit the blinker. Don't let the vehicle do it, or it'll drive you nuts on a long drive like this.
Yep.
But thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate it. And I'll be doing next up now, where we're going to record basically the same conversation, but it's going to go on my channel.
If you want to see another version of the conversation, go check out State of Charge. In the meantime, we're also going to head to the charger, and we'll see you guys there and see how this thing does low down the pack. Can we actually get 100 miles in 10 minutes? We'll find out. Now we've made it to an EV Go. We actually, there's a lot of Electrify Americas around. A lot of them are very busy. This is a 6-stall EV Go station, all 350 kilowatts. There's a lot of power cabinets over there, so we're thinking they may not be shared. Even if they are, the one we happen to park at is broken, which is annoyingly not super uncommon. But that means we're gonna plug into this one that is working, and that way, we're blocking the broken spot. Hopefully, even if they are shared, then that means we'll have dedicated power from the one that's working. So we'll plug in. We arrived with 19% state of charge, barely. It barely tipped from 20 to 19. So we can get a really good 20 to 80 session, see how it works. Tom's gonna be, of course, filming that. I'm gonna jump on a podcast, but I'm gonna report all the data we find out right after we finish. All right, the wind is picking up, but that's probably just from all the wind turbines that were causing working overtime charging this thing.
We just finished.
Just finished.
19 to 79% in 33 minutes.
Holy cow.
At 143 kilowatt hour. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
We never hit the 350 peak though.
Okay.
Peaked out at around 280.
Yep.
But it ripped the whole way, so.
Wanted to point out the cameras are a bit potato quality, but they do the job, which is fine. But, all right, we just finished our charging session. Effectively, sort of 20 to 80, but it was, 19 to 79. So theirs makes no difference, I guess.
60% of the battery, right in that sweet spot where a lot of people charge, so.
Yeah, and a huge amount of juice poured into this thing in just over half an hour. So we never got the full 475 amps from the station, like you said. You saw that in the Silverado EV. I saw no example of station limitation. I don't know where that limit was coming from, other than maybe further down the pack this would have requested more.
I don't know. When my Silverado recordings, it was requesting over 400 amps at 20%. So this never topped out at 378 amps requested. We needed to pull 475 amps to hit 350 kilowatts like it's supposed to be able to do. So I don't know what happened there. It's still charged really well.
Yeah, and we've seen up to 370 kilowatts charging these things. So this was maybe just not, it's not common where you see a perfect charging session, and you know that very well. You're Mr. Charger guy.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's still a lot of energy, and we saw it hold it very, very deep. We didn't see it dip below 200 until the very end, around 75%.
Above 75%, I think.
Which is awesome. So this is still, very capable. We just delivered a lot of miles worth of range.
33 minutes.
Yeah.
We went from 19 to 79. We added almost 150 kilowatt hour, right? I think it was like 145 kilowatt hour in 33 minutes. So
Yeah.
you can't complain about that. Could it have been better? It could have been a little bit better.
Yeah.
But you can't complain about that.
And that's, I mean, this is one thing to mention, you know, over 200 kilowatt hours. Let's say you're paying 45, even 50. I mean, if without Electrify America's plan, you're paying 64 cents per kilowatt hour in a lot of places.
Yeah.
That's an expensive charge. But, you know, charging at home, that's where you really get the benefit of not being too drastically affected by this battery. But honestly, charging monster. They quoted 10 minutes to deliver 100 miles worth of charging. By our calculation, even our subpar charging session we had just now was still doing about 90 to 95 miles in 10 minutes.
Yep.
Especially the first 10 minutes. So really not too bad. And we even saw the voltage peak up to 800 at the very end. So really, honestly, impressive. So that's it. Honestly, that's where I'm gonna wrap up my video. Tom, of course, did his own video, so check out State of Charge for his commentary and a little bit of our commentary again. And every conversation is unique, so it's kind of fun. So it's still worth it to watch double content. A lot of other creators are here too. I mean, our friend Ben Jeeves is here. The Jeeves channel will have his own video, which I'm excited to watch personally. And yeah, Silverado, dang it, Sierra EV. I keep doing that. This feels like a Silverado EV, but like just a bit nice. It's like what I wish the Silverado EV felt like. So I'm a big fan of this thing. Seems like Tom's a big fan of this thing.
Absolutely.
If this had been out at the time of your Lightning purchase, what would you have done?
That's such a hard thing to question. I think I would have went for this. I really do.
Would you have gone for, so there's going to be this is the max range pack. There's also, like I said in the beginning of the video, the extended range, which is just a stupid name for the smaller battery.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be an even smaller battery later coming on the elevation trim, which might be like 135 kilowatt hours. That could be the future base model, which then would make the extended range make a bit more sense. But the extended range, Tom, being like 90 grand?
Yeah, I would have bought that 100%. I don't need, my Lightning's range is more than I need.
Yeah.
And when I go on road trips, I never have a problem. You know, it takes me far enough in between stops. When I race Kyle down to Florida, you know, every 3 hours or so,
Yeah.
a 35, 40-minute stop, it was just enough for me to stretch my legs, go to bathroom, get a cup of coffee and keep going. So to me, the extended range would probably be the sweet spot. I might even get the smallest entry-level one.
Yeah.
I just love the layout on this. I'm a big fan of this Denali. What they did, particularly on the interior, you spend a lot of time. That's where you spend all your time. And
Right.
this really nailed it for me. Just enough premium, just enough quality. I think they did a really nice job with it.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for more Sierra EV content. Of course, we got a 20 to 80-ish, but we can't wait to do a 10 to 80. Of course, we'll be doing a 0 to 100 charging test, range testing, towing inevitably, our hogback challenge to see how Super Cruise does, maybe our towing challenge in the mountains. A lot more to do with this truck and the future trims. AT4 notably coming next year along with that base model elevation trim. Should be fun to see all these. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you GMC for having us out in this beautiful state, California, and we'll see you next time.